Hey, so welcome back to the Aerospace Executive Podcast. I'm really happy to have Jenny Showalter on with me. Jenny comes from a long legacy of business aviation professionals, and she's here doing some career coaching now and working some leadership issues with OEMs, MROs, flight departments, and a whole host of people in the industry. And I'm happy to have you, Jenny.
Right,
How's
thank
things in
you so
Orlando?
much. Oh, everything's great in Orlando. We got our first little hint of fall this week, so just a little bit cooler in the mornings. It's going to go away, but it all is well here. Thank you.
We were like 100 degrees here yesterday. It's like, wow. I'm ready. I'm ready for fall. Summer came and went, but I'm ready for fall.
I'm sure. Yeah, I think everybody is in that same boat. So, but yes, everything is great here. Thank you. And yes, as you said, I have a long aviation legacy in my family. I'm third generation business aviation professional. My family had an FBO. I was third generation working in the FBO, Showalter flying service at the Orlando Executive Airport. We had it for 70 years in our family and sold it about almost 9 years ago. So it's been a little while. And then I chose, as did my brother, to stay involved in business aviation. It's just sort of part of who we are, Craig. And I think that I'm very grateful for the legacy that was gifted to me and that was really cared for well. And I hope to continue it.
Yeah. So 70 years and then 70 years and then you guys moved. I remember you selling. Who was the buyer?
Yeah, it was Atlantic Aviation that purchased it at ORL. And I joke, when my parents sold the business, I was 40 and a single mom with young kids. And I was like, well, geez, now what? I'm midlife and out of a job, thanks to mom and dad. But obviously, opportunity presented itself to stay within business aviation.
So so now you've moved into more you're helping up and coming professionals guide their career.
Yes, absolutely. So I did spend about 5 years in business aviation recruiting for Part 91 flight departments. And when that opportunity ended, my husband, who's a Global Express captain, and I sat down and tried to figure out what we wanted for our next phase of life. And I really have always held a deep passion for the people in this industry, whether it was meeting them on the ramp at the FBO or helping them find new opportunity when I was recruiting. And I decided to find a way to pair my passion for aviation with helping those individuals by launching a career coaching business, Showalter Business Aviation Career Coaching. And I launched it in March of 2022. And I really help anybody who is aspiring or current business aviation professional with one-on-one coaching, resume writing, LinkedIn reviews, and interview prep.
There's lots going on in business aviation, lots of opportunities, lots of challenges right now.
There's a lot of movement in the industry right now. It's you can't blink too quickly because you might miss something. And I think, workforce is always a very hot topic and rightfully so. We are short staffed everywhere, whether it be pilot, maintenance. And I always say we have an aviation talent shortage. We focus on the flight department roles, but it's not just within flight departments. It's all throughout the industry. And I think one of the things that I'm seeing in particular are good people who have good jobs who are looking for new opportunities. And I've identified that a lot of the reason that this is happening is because of leadership or sometimes lack thereof. So I actually, a couple of weeks ago, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, and I shared something, it wasn't my own. I shared it and it said, never push a loyal person to the point where they don't care anymore. And it got quite a lot of traction in terms of, likes and such on LinkedIn. And I've had a couple of people actually reach out to me after the fact and reading that and said, that really resonates with me, but I'm even afraid to hit the like button on it because I don't want to tip off my boss that I might not be happy where I am. And I think people crave stability in their careers. Nobody likes to move. Nobody likes to change jobs. That's not fun for anyone. But what I'm seeing is leaders who are not really good with self-awareness, and they perceive themselves in one way and assume that others perceive them in that same way, but it's not really happening. And there are a lot of teams that are struggling out there with morale. There are teams that are struggling with feeling like a team. I mean, even not having team meetings, believe it or not, flight department meetings. And then you have to wonder beyond that, if they're not meeting as a team for, just regular things, how is their SMS? What is happening after they do flights? But bringing it back to the lack of leadership, good people are looking for new opportunity because they want strong leaders.
Yeah. Well, I look at it, it's interesting. I've had this very same conversation. The worst position in the world right now to recruit for is a director of operations for a Part 135. And I'll tell you why. It's because a director of operations at a good Part 135 is about pick a number, $250,000, give or take. You got to meet the specs. You got to meet you got to meet the 119 specs. And I got a lot of pilots out there who meet the specs and they're going, I go, I can make just as much money flying a jet. I don't have to lead people. I don't have to deal with people. And I'm very happy that way. And there's problem number one. There's issue number one right there.
That is a big issue. And the 135 world is a completely different beast unto itself. So that is very hard. And I've had people reach out to me looking for those types of roles. Did I know anyone who might be a fit? And I really don't. It's a very slim pool that you're pulling from.
But the issue becomes you got a lot of leaders who don't want to lead. I'm a leader, but leading to me is I'm a leader, but don't ask me to lead because it's too much of a headache.
Yeah, it's a real thing. And some of the stories that I hear, and mind you, I mean, I'm hearing it from somebody who's been pushed to a point where they're finally having to come out and say, I'm not happy, and this is why. And a good portion of it, not all of it, it's never all one thing, but a portion of it is because of my leader. But again, the number of leaders that are out there that aren't willing to go to bat for their people. Because we have to be willing to go to bat for our people all the time. And I know there are a lot of leaders out there who do go to bat for their people, but don't get a lot of movement or traction within the company. But you have to communicate that to your people. I'm trying, let me have more time. Let me keep working on this, that communication in that way. But your people have to make sure that you have to make sure your people know that you are working on their behalf, that you have their best interest at heart, that you care about the team, you care about them as individuals. And that's hard for some people to effectively do in this world.
Yep. I see it across. It's interesting because one of the big challenges I see in business aviation, and I'll talk to it from not just business aviation, but across aviation in general, but I'll talk to it from a couple of different levels. I was an aviator. And some of the most self-unaware leaders are aviators. The old, what's the difference between a jet engine and a pilot? There's some truth to that. And I appreciate that the pilots all, they're very, black or white, it's safe or unsafe, but some emotional intelligence needs to come in there. And just because it's a flight department doesn't mean that a pilot needs to be running it.
Absolutely. And, I've always said, and mind you, I grew up with a dad who was a pilot, a grandfather, both my grandfathers. I didn't know one of them, but both of them were pilots. My dad's a pilot. My brother's a pilot, married to a pilot. And I've always said, there's no checklist for life. You have a checklist as a pilot to make sure that everything's going well and in order. And there's no checklist for life when you get beyond the cockpit. And I think a lot of pilots that become directors of aviation in these flight departments do need a little bit of help with that emotional intelligence piece. And some, like I said, some are fantastic. They're wonderful leaders in this industry, but We have some that also need some work. And so I think, we blame compensation, we blame quality of life for people leaving this industry or people making moves within the industry. And those are valid. Those are very valid things. Compensation, quality of life are at the very top of almost everyone's list. But that culture piece, that teamwork piece, that we all want to follow somebody who's a strong leader, and we all want to feel valued when we go to work every day. I think those are the things that sometimes get discounted.
Yeah, no, but you see it all the way down to the one of the challenges the industry's having is, you think about even at the FBO level, hangar rush. And I was at a conference. I think I spoke at NATA last year, and everybody was talking about hangar rush. And the question becomes, the turnover of the FBO, just your line folks at the FBO. There's a constant need to train. So you're going, all right, how do we stop this? How do we show how do we show the line folks and the A&Ps and the people that are moving very expensive airplanes around that, hey, look, this is a serious, this is a serious job. I mean,
see, now you're talking to my roots here in aviation, because with all that time, 20 plus years at the FBO, it takes time to develop a safe and effective line service technician. It just does. People can't learn this industry overnight, nor can they tow a $65 or $75 million jet effectively and safely overnight. And yes, the FBOs are dealing with turnover, just like every other business out there, it seems. And they're also dealing with compensation in that area has historically been, hourly for most line service technicians. And it's been, when we sold our business, probably one of our most senior line service technicians was making in the range of $15 an hour. And now, if you look at $15 an hour, you can go to McDonald's and make $15 an hour. And compensation has come up; it's had to come up in that realm. But the competition in that salary range is really high. And people are like, well, why do I want to go work outside in the heat or in the cold, in the snow, and do this job? And we relied for so long as an industry on the fact that we're cool. Like, we have a major cool factor. I move airplanes all around. I can fuel any kind of airplane that comes onto my ramp, and the cool factor isn't enough to sell it these days.
Yeah, no, it's not. And cool doesn't pay rent.
No.
but once again, we were talking about all the challenges in the industry. Insurance rates are going up. Well, why are insurance rates going up? Well, because a lot of hangar rash, a lot of claims. You're like, all right, well, you think about, just all these issues that comes to the people, your people issues, resonate in areas where you never really think that they're going to resonate. And it all comes down to, okay, how do we, as a company, as an industry, get our arms around and start to develop the right people who are going to lead the businesses,
who are going to lead. And I think that's one thing. When I was in the recruiting space, I certainly noticed that there was a lot of recycling that went on in some of the leadership in corporate flight departments. You would have a lot of, if somebody was going to take a job as a director in this flight department, they were usually coming with that experience from someplace else. And I noticed that there weren't a lot of younger, fresh blood leaders coming into the industry and wanting to position themselves for that in the future. And so that's been something that I've really been passionate about, is encouraging people. If I see somebody who's in their 30s or 40s and has a CAM and has done some extra things, has maybe a passion outside of flying, whether it be safety or training or whatever it may be, and kind of say, hey, have you ever thought about being a leader? Would you want to be a chief pilot? Would you want to be a director of aviation? What does your future look like? Because I see things in you wanting to do extra, wanting to educate yourself, interested in professional development, that could could transition to that later in life. And so some people that aren't even thinking, they're just like, well, I'm just doing my thing. I'm not like really positioning myself. You kind of have to plant that seed so that they can start to more strategically look at positioning themselves for future.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I placed a chief pilot, director of aviation for a Fortune 100 company a couple months ago. And the person that got the role was in a final interview with his boss, who would be boss. And the first question she asked was, how do we develop? How are we going to develop leadership amongst the pilots? And he was like, sort of taken aback. Nobody had ever asked him that question. After about 10 minutes, she finally said, look, I'll just cut to the chase. I want every pilot to come off the line for a week and go through leadership training, formal leadership training. Wow. Yeah, there's a novel approach, right?
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think that is another area where we lose sight of allowing somebody to do professional development, whether you say, this is the professional development you're going to do, or here's some resources for you to choose the professional development path that you're going to go on. That goes a long way. I mean, that really, I look at that as part of compensation because they're investing in you, and that money that they're investing in you, it goes with you. If you don't work there any longer, that money goes with you because you take that training wherever you go. Hopefully you stay and you invest that training into the current flight department. So they kind of take a risk in some ways when they do that with you. But I think that is definitely an area that I am told quite frequently, they don't give me any opportunity to better myself. And there are ways that people do it on their own. I always like to see people when they invest their own resources in these things. But then you see, and I'm sure you do too, there are those flight departments that this is a high priority and their people have ample professional development opportunities, can't even take as many as that are offered. And then there's some with none. And it's bridging that gap. I think the mentality oftentimes is, oh, well, they're just pilots, or, oh, well, they're just,
You just hit the nail right on the head. And going back a year ago conversation, look, we're in a quote unquote pilot shortage right now. How much of that pilot shortage is real, remains to be seen. And I think, some, events with Wheels Up, or I think some of the other things are going to start to take some pressure off. But they're just pilots. To me, conversation I said was, look, there's 6 reasons people will change jobs: challenge, location, ability to move up the food chain, money, people they work with, and security. I said, look, a couple of the things in the pilot ranks that they want, which will eliminate the you worry about you, I'll worry about me divide, is security. Because corporate pilots, there always is the risk of the jet just going away.
Sure. And we've all seen it a million times, it feels like. But I would say that that's like that in any sector of aviation, though. We've all lived through times that were very volatile, and the industry as a whole suffered, or sometimes, the airlines did a little worse and business aviation did a little better, or vice versa. So, we live in a very volatile space, and, security, I do outplacement. I've done outplacement. I did it during the pandemic, and have done it a little bit since. And, a lot of these people never saw it coming. They never saw it coming. And you can think you're in a very secure environment, and the next day be on a virtual meeting and, be told, thank you for your service. We're done. And so, and that's not a good feeling. Those people that I've worked with in outplacement, especially in times where we were in the middle of a pandemic and everything was very uncertain, that's a really bad feeling. So, I think we all do as much as we can to feel secure in our roles and our positions. But at the end of the day, things happen.
Well, there's no guarantee in life, but I think as an industry, the opportunity the industry has is to create, I don't exactly know how it's done, but you think about NBAA or the regional associations or the jet pilot associations, et cetera. Somebody needs to create, if you want leadership and you want elevating professionalism and you want to know that the folks who are flying your airplane are really good versus just people you're getting off the street, I think there's got to be some sort of, I don't know how you do it, but maybe there's some sort of protection, because ultimately what I speak to is that, you saw 9/11, I did too.
Yep.
Then we saw the Great Recession.
Yep.
Then COVID comes along. And, after 9/11 and the Great Recession, it becomes very hard for somebody to say, gee, aviation is a great career path, and they encourage their kids to go into it. What do they go? They go work for Microsoft or Google, right? That's, or go be a doctor.
Yeah.
Somehow or another.
We have 2 sons, and one of them is, I would say both of them have shown a little interest in it. And our oldest son has his drone pilot's license. But we hesitate somewhat. The cost of training, the cost of getting to a place where you are marketable within this industry is significant. And then you join a volatile industry. So I think our big thing is to make sure that if either one of our boys decide to make a career out of aviation, that they are 100% committed and that they love what they do. Because I think those people in this industry that can say that my passion is aviation, I love what I do. I think we're the ones that, will do anything to make sure that our careers in the future in this industry are as healthy as possible.
Mm-hmm. Where do you think we need to go? You're seeing it from the front lines, and I know you and Chris Broyhill are doing some stuff together, and Chris is phenomenal.
He's fantastic. Yeah, what he does is truly an amazing service for the industry, because if you don't have, he's all about data. I am not a data person. That is not my realm. But because of what he does for the industry and focusing on the data, I think as an individual, you're stabbing at the dark, or you're going by hearsay as to what proper compensation should look like for whatever role that you're in. And so the fact that he provides you with that data specifically for the role and where you are, it is incredible. It's an incredible service. And I think one of the things that makes Chris and like a business like mine really interesting is that we don't work for anybody else. We work for the individual. I mean, yes, Chris does, analysis for companies, but I mean, we don't have another dog in the fight. We're here for you, and we're here to help you grow, and we're here to help the industry thrive. And I've said for a long time, I don't think there's a blanket solution for the workforce shortage that we have in this industry. I don't think that there's a magic bullet that we're going to be able to have that's going to fix everything. I think it's going to be a multi-pronged approach. And I know a lot of groups who are working on, very innovative ideas and solutions to the issue. But at the end of the day, we have to get more young people involved in what we do. And, I'm part of the Central Florida Business Aviation Association here in Central Florida. And we decided, we've only been around for 4 years. David Keys, you may know him. He's our president. My husband is our vice president. I'm the secretary. We're 3 of the founders of the association. And we decided that our main focus is workforce. That's what our reason for being is developing workforce. We're in Central Florida, where Embry-Riddle is, and Florida Tech, and a lot of high schools in the area have aviation components through the Gates Foundation at Embry-Riddle. And so we do a once annual business aviation day at Daytona Beach Airport and invite students that are in high school and college. And we have aircraft on display where they can come and touch and feel the airplanes. We have industry speakers that are trying to get them excited about the industry and what we do. And we have people that come and set up booths and actually are looking for interns and to hire folks folks, and we have had people hired from our events. We've only had 2. Our 3rd will be coming up in March. And it's a wonderful time for them to be able to see and feel and experience it. And mind you, these are all aviation track students, whether it be high school or college. They have all expressed an interest in aviation and want to create their future career in aviation in some facet. And for the majority of the people that come, they have never had a business aviation experience before. So that is one of the keys there, is how do we get to those people? I mean, we talk about, trying to engage people that have never touched aviation, and that's great. But what about these people that are involved in aviation and do want to make that their future and don't know about us? That's a problem.
My sense is it's an all hands. Like, I know Gulfstream is working with Savannah Tech, and I know, most of the OEMs are doing some stuff with community colleges and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the message is getting out, though. I mean, in fact, the positive message, it probably, jumping up and down and screaming, this is a good job. This is a good career. This is a good industry that provides a lot of jobs. High paying job. You could talk about an FBO, but let's go talk about A&P mechanics who are now, doing very well for themselves, or pilots who are doing very well for themselves. When you think about the number of jobs and the number of economic benefits the industry has, I think there needs to be an all-in approach, starting at the OEMs and going down to every FBO. And
absolutely. I completely agree. And I don't know how we corral everybody and get that same message out there, but I'll tell you 2 things. One thing is, every time I speak to a group, I try to end it with, if you love this industry the way that I do, spread the word, pass it along, talk to your neighbors, your friends' children, your children's friends, whatever it may be. Spread the word on this industry, because it's pretty darn fantastic. And another thing that I recognize too is, as I'm working with a client, say on a resume rewrite, and maybe we're doing a cover letter to go along with it. I like to start a cover letter with a little bit of a hook, a little bit of a story of why you do what you do. What is your why? Why are you in this industry? And it's amazing, especially in the pilot and maintenance realm, I would say, how many of them say, I remember going to the airport with my dad when I was a kid, or I remember the first time my neighbor took me flying, or I remember living close to an airport and looking up and seeing planes. But these encounters with aviation started pretty young for these people. And that spark of passion started at an early age. So I know there are people out there that say once they get to high school and college, we've waited too long. We have to start somewhere.
Yeah. But once you're in the industry too, we started out talking about, sort of leadership development. And I think that, not choosing to do nothing is a choice in itself. And it's just as dangerous.
Yeah.
So when you think about people who say, hey, I'm just happy being an individual contributor, and I'll show up for my day job and I'll just do what, that's a choice you've made that, is just as dangerous as saying, hey, I'm going to take a little risk and put myself out there.
It's true. I do find that, we are the industry of more. Like people want to do more in general. I mean, there are always going to be some that are they're just here to collect the paycheck and go home. But I find in my dealings with people that most of us want that extra, and that's why we're here. So I think that's a big component. And then that takes you kind of back to leadership. I mean, if you have a team of people who want that extra, who want that more, want to do more, want to learn more, want to be more, find ways to enable them to do that.
Yeah. I mean, the airlines provide a good union job. If you just want a union job, Southwest is hiring right now.
Absolutely.
That's it. If you want a place where you go make a difference. I mean, I think about running being an aviation director at Part 91. I mean, that's a business. It's a small business. I mean,
absolutely.
You're hiring people, you're taking care of jets, you're budgeting, maintenance, you're talking about expenditures, it's
Yeah.
you're it's a very challenging role.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're the one speaking directly to the leaders within the organization too,
Yeah.
which, requires a certain skill set.
Yeah.
So absolutely, it's a very challenging position. And I've seen lots of director roles, and they're all structured somewhat differently. Some, you have to have that financial background and acumen. Some it's, lead our people and keep us safe. It kind of runs the gamut, but yes, I mean, it's again, I mean, I think it just all comes back to leadership. But it's not easy for the leaders. I will definitely acknowledge that.
It's not easy, but nothing worth doing is easy. I mean, that's
right. That's right. You're
that's the whole thing.
Right.
That's the whole thing. But it's funny because everybody talks to me, hey, we need leaders. I say, all right, I got it. It's funny. I'm working with somebody and they need some leaders. I'm like, all right, here's some people you should sit down and talk to.
Yeah.
What's your calendar look like? Crickets. Well, I'm in the car for the next 45 minutes. That doesn't work.
No.
That doesn't work. You need to practice. It's like anything in the world. If you want to develop leaders, it's a concentrated effort to sit down and focus and have intelligent conversations with people who are trying to help you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and I think some of the most effective flight departments are those that really view their director of ops in the flight department, whatever the title may be for that particular role, as the expert in aviation. They're the expert in their field. They are the ones that are tied into what the industry is what's happening in the industry, and they have the finger on the pulse of best practices and trends. One of the things that we're really struggling with is training and lack thereof. And I can remember just before the pandemic when we had really moved to the place for the most part where people are like, we just want the right fit. We're hiring for the right fit. We'll train, we'll type. You don't see that so much anymore because you can't train, you can't type because you don't get a training slot. So I think that the directors that are really able to be put in that subject matter expert position and that are able to go to their department and say, we're short-staffed, we can't get a training slot for 6 months. We need to be actively looking for somebody, and we need to be prepared to keep that somebody on staff even before they get trained, because we need to show our team that we're committed. And unfortunately, this is what the industry is providing us with right now. Yeah.
Well, that's the going back to the Fortune 100, 500 flight department. You think about a flight, the challenges a flight department leader has. Egos. I mean, come on. Go to Wall Street, try to run a flight department for some of these Wall Street guys, the hedge funds guys. Yeah, you're talking about egos that show up 10 minutes before the body does. Entrepreneurs who are go, 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 go. They're constantly thinking. You talk about, the people you want, let's just say skills are a given. A type-rated Global 5000 pilot is typed, safe, ready to go. But now you're talking about balance and culture. And all right, my flight department leader needs to have the ability to say no to some very challenging customers, and that's not an easy fit.
No, it's definitely not. And that difference between, flying for a corporation versus flying for a high net worth individual or family, they're both very nuanced in their own ways, and both can be wonderful and both can be challenging. And we've seen it all. And I know you've been in the industry long enough, and you've heard a lot.
Oh, you hear the stories, but you hear the stories. It talks about, I just bring that up because it's like, it's not an easy job.
It's not an easy job.
And that's why the leadership needs to be developed.
Yeah.
Because it's just not, people are like, well, it's an easy job. Well, no, it's really not.
It's highly nuanced. And, these leaders, they do get the pressures from above, they get the pressures from below. They also now have to be kind of part shrink with their employees. But I will say one of the things that I always encourage too is for leaders to prioritize conversations with their team. And I understand you may have a chief pilot in some of the larger organizations that works under a director, and they're the ones that really do a lot of the day-to-day hands-on with the team. That's fine. But as a leader, you need to prioritize that time with your team, because you need to know what's going on with them to a degree so that you're not blindsided, which is happening a lot, by people leaving. You want to have some inkling that this person isn't 100% happy, and why aren't they? And is there anything I can do about it? And sometimes the answer is no. Yeah. Sometimes people are just unrealistic, and just unhappy. So that's certainly a possibility. But if there's something you can do, you need to know about it in advance so you have time to fix it before it becomes, a greater problem for your team when they leave.
When a leader shows up and says, I just had a couple of people quit and I had no idea.
Yeah.
Well, the first question is, why didn't you have any idea?
Why didn't you know? Why didn't you know?
Why didn't you know? It's not like.
And I think that a lot of leaders don't come across as accessible to their teams, and prioritize that time. I mean, if you spend 30 minutes with the people on your team, every few months, even, you're going to be getting a lot of information from that. I mean, I always look at it as kind of a fact-finding opportunity. And I love the chance to sit down with somebody one-on-one and really find out what's going on with them, what makes them tick. And I think that the benefits of spending that time with them, not only to find out, where they are, but that it's kind of a good grace of, wow, my leader took the time. I know how busy they are. I know how many demands they have on their schedule, but still took the time to meet with me.
Absolutely. It's all about communication. How do people get a hold of you, Jenny?
They can reach me through my website, showalter.com. My email address is jshowalter@showalter.com. And I'm active on LinkedIn, Jenny Showalter, and they're welcome to come there and follow and connect. We'll put all that in the show notes too. Great. So thanks for coming on today. Great conversation. Thank you so much, Craig. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, Jenny, thank you very kindly. Talk soon. I hope you enjoyed the latest edition of the Aerospace Executive Podcast. You can reach out to me directly, Craig at northstaresg.com, or check us out at www.northstaresg.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, or on YouTube. Just do a search for Aerospace Executive Podcast. Thanks again. I'm Craig Pittman.